Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy, and I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the NIV. We are in Numbers, and we are in chapter 11. And as always, we're going to do the entire chapter. It's 35 verses, though, so it's not too painful. Fire from the Lord. So that's a big deal. Because remember, again, BC era. Okay? No matches, no lighters. You knew how to strike fire with flint and wood and stuff. Okay? Now, advanced enough to know that oil burns and olive trees grow plentiful, so olive oil can be made. Now, the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord. Of course, because we're humans. When he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then fire from the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. That's pretty alarming. When the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. So that place was called Taberah, because the fire of the Lord had burned among them. Now, I'm going to state, so if you have Disney Plus, like I do, they have a whole thing on there. Two different shows. Archaeology, investigating whether or not Bible stories are true. And in there, they found a couple of different things. One, right around that area of the Dead Sea, there's giant mountains of salt. And underneath any mountain of salt, there's these pockets of natural gas. And in that, they will just so any spark of anything along the way, just like you'd have to worry if natural gas was released in your house, and whoosh, right? And it's just going to go until the natural gas pocket is burnt out. So that burst, because it does have the draft, if you will, of the updraft of the fuel, because that's what it would take. It would need to be an air temperature change up here, which would give it an updraft, and then you could just suddenly have things be on fire. And then also along each side of the Jordan River are giant fault lines. So anytime in there when we're talking about anything Old Testament, or even talking about the time of Jesus, and we're talking about earthquakes, every earthquake is plausible. And if we're talking about pockets of natural gas, anything that looks like a fireball is entirely plausible. Because just imagine that you've got any one of these areas with any one of these places where these pockets of natural gas, because who knows where these salt pockets really just stop, because they're definitely over by the Dead Sea. That's why it's dead. That's why it's salty. Nothing flows out of it. It's the lowest point, so it's just got water coming down from the mountain and flowing right into the salt. Okay? So all of it is possible. Whew. Quail from the Lord. Yes. Yeah, we get quail out here too. It's, just any number of places, especially if because like I said, I'm out here in the desert myself, just in the United States, and not out there. Quail from the Lord. The rabble with them began to crave other food. And again, the Israelites started wailing and said, "If only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Also, the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic." Somebody's thinking of a specific meal, although it's a little bit strange. Melons in there. But now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. It's sort of like, you remember in Lord of the Rings when it's like, what do we have to eat? Lambus bread. And what else? More lambus bread. Okay. The manna was like a coriander seed and looked like resin. Ha! That was one of my theories, because that's what happens out here in the extreme heat. I have rose bushes. When in the extreme heat of the summer, the oils come up, and then when it cools down, they crystallize on the leaves, and you could just go out there and scrape the essential oil crystals straight off the leaf or straight off the petal. I don't have a tendency to leave them. Mostly, I collect whatever it is I need for the essential oils that I make. But the birds, the hummingbirds, love them. Absolutely love them, and they'll go over there and feast on them, and they do. They look like resin when they're hardened, and they are tiny like that. The people went around and gathered it. I've also managed to do that with basil too. And then they ground it in a hand mill and crushed it in a mortar. They cooked it in a pot or made it into cakes. It tasted like something made with olive oil. When the dew settled down on the camp at night, the manna also came down. Okay? Moses heard the people of every family wailing, each at the entrance to his tent. The Lord became exceedingly angry, and Moses was troubled. He asked the Lord, "Why have you brought this trouble on your servant? What have I done to displease you that you put the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people?" I have had this conversation with God myself, I can tell you for sure. Did I give birth? Did I give them birth? Why do you tell me to carry them in my arms and nurse, and as a nurse carries an infant, to the land you promised an oath to their forefathers? Where can I get meat for all these people? They keep wailing to me, "Give us meat to eat." I cannot carry all these people by myself. The burden is too heavy for me. If this is how you are going to treat me, put me to death right now. If I have found favor in your eyes, do not let me face my own ruin. Absolutely, I've had that conversation with God. I cannot tell you how many times in some other variation. So I find that's very funny. So it's like, oh, look at that. Me and Uncle Moses got something in common. The Lord said to Moses, "Bring me 70 of Israel's elders who are known to you as leaders and officials among the people. Have them come to the tent of meeting, that they may stand there with you. I will come down and speak with you there. And I will take of the Spirit that is on you and put the Spirit on them. They will help you carry the burden so that you will not have to carry it all on your own. Tell the people, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow, when you will eat meat. The Lord heard you when you wailed, 'If only we had meat to eat, we were better off in Egypt.' Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat it. You will not eat it for just 1 day or 2 days or 5 days or 10 days or 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and you loathe it, because you have rejected the Lord who is among you, and you have wailed before him, saying, 'Why did we ever leave Egypt?'" And you want meat? All right, buddy. Here you go. But Moses said, "Here I am among 600,000 men on foot, and you say, 'I will give them meat for a whole month.' Would they have enough flocks and herds were slaughtered for them?" Like, do we even have enough? and the flocks and the herds for that? Would they have enough if all the fish in the sea were caught for them? Like, can they even be appeased? Then the Lord answered Moses, is the Lord's arm too short? So, you will now see whether or not what I say will come true for you. Where's your faith? So Moses went out and told the people what the Lord had said. He brought together 70 of their elders and had them stand around the tent. For me, that would end up coming in some sort of email or some sort of text message or some sort of friend sending me some Bible verse that had like the reproach baked into it, where I'd just be like, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Around the tent. Then the Lord, we're in verse 25, by the way. Then the Lord said, then the Lord came down in a cloud and spoke with him, and he took of the spirit that was on him, that'd be Moses, and put the spirit on the 70 elders, so the Holy Spirit. When the spirit rested on them, they prophesied, but they did not do so again. So they could do it in that moment of what they could see, or prophesied and continued to do so. Okay, well, which end is it? Did they do it or didn't they do it again? However, 2 men whose names were Eldad and Medad had remained in the camp. They were listed among the elders, but did not go out to the tent. Yet the Spirit also rested on them, and they prophesied in the camp. A young man ran and told Moses, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. Joshua, son of Nun, who had been Moses' aide since youth, spoke up and said, Moses, my Lord, stop them. But Moses replied, are you jealous for my sake? That would make me confused too. Are you jealous for my sake? Every minister's job is to try to get people to bend the knee next to them to the Lord. And we're not in competition. If you can prophesy and it's accurate, then he's blessed you with something and you're in alignment with him, and thank goodness I could use all the help I could get. Thank goodness. Like, good on you. Huh. Are you jealous for my sake? I wish that all the Lord's people were prophets, and that the Lord would put his spirit on them. Then Moses and the elders of Israel returned to the camp. Now a wind went out from the Lord and drove quail in from the sea. That's an interesting, from the sea. Like maybe away from the sea. Quail are not really known for their really strong flying abilities. They sort of scurry on the ground more. It's not so much that they can't fly. Maybe they're not like, or maybe just not the quail around here. It brought them, or they flew down all around the camp to about 3 feet above the ground. Or in Hebrew, 2 cubits, about 1 meter or 3 feet above the ground. So yeah, they kind of do that. You know how chickens sort of can do the like hop and the flutter kind of. I've never really seen a quail flying across the sky before. It's just not where I see them. But again, maybe it's just me and maybe it's just these quail around me. All that day and night and all the next day, the people went out and gathered quail. No one gathered less than 10 homers. That is probably about 60 bushels or about 2.2 kilograms. Then they spread them out all around the camp. But while the meat was still between their teeth before it could be consumed, the anger of the Lord burned against the people, and he struck them with a severe plague. Therefore, the place was named Kibroth Kibroth. Hattahava. Hattahava is how I would say that. Hattaavah. Graves of the craving in Hebrew. That makes sense. Because they were, because there they buried the people who had craved other food. Okay. From Kibroth Hattahava, the people traveled to Hazeroth and stayed there. So he fed people, and then they got sick because he fed people who were, being jerks, in his opinion. Other food, not just the food. They're not grateful for the food they were given. Attitude of gratitude had some very severe consequences for not having it back then, didn't it? Gives it a whole other risk factor, doesn't it?